Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 23 here at the tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. And today I am joined once again by Raptor. How you doing, Raptor?
I'm doing quite excellent, Barkeep. How are you today?
Oh, doing pretty good, especially since this morning, because we're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit of Sentai news and how that affects us. And specifically, for those of you who don't know, Dukemon22 over at Ranger Board has given us the first Sentai rumors for the 38th Sentai for next season.
Yes. So, you just want to read it off? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read from his Ranger Board post here, and then we're going to give you our impressions about this, and then we'll go on from there. Basically, what the rumor is, and let's also point out that none of this is official. None of this may not be real and all that kind of stuff. But speculation is fun. It's a lot more fun to speculate about the Sentai, I think, than usually speculating about Power Rangers. Especially since with Sentai,
it's completely original.
You have no idea what's coming.
Yes.
So, and I'm just going to paraphrase a couple of things he has here. If you want to see the full thing, definitely go to rangerboard.com and
we'll
you
put
can
a link
read it.
to it.
We'll get a link in there. But basically, it starts off with the idea that the toy sales for Kyryuger are really good. And so what they want to do is they want to return to animal mechas of some sort. And specifically what Dukemon22 notes in his post is animal-faced vehicles. And he draws a comparison to Go-Onger. So vehicles that look like animals, maybe they don't transform.
Animal-themed vehicles.
Yeah. Let's see here. And then he also...
However, he points out with the animal-faced vehicles that it's not just Go-Onger that used that.
Yeah.
He points out that Go Busters did it.
Mm-hmm. Such
as the rabbit-faced helicopter.
Yeah, Ghost Ranger, Live Man, Jetman, those are all examples down there. But that's the main point here is that we're looking at animals next season, which is great. I love animals. Now, it also mentions that this is something a little bit more specific, that the lion will not be an animal up for consideration in this new line, which I think is interesting. We'll get into in a second. And that a Yellow Ranger will return next season as a female. So, again, animals for next season, female Yellow Ranger, and no lion. That's all the information we have, but I think that's something we can go off on.
Yes,
and
certainly.
What do you think about this, just this information in general? What do you think about it?
Well, again, like you said, it's some scattered details. Hard to put together any idea for a plot from this.
Yeah.
But, animal-faced vehicles have been pretty cool. We've had some pretty interesting designs for animal-faced mechas and just straight-up animal mechas, such as Gao Ranger / Wild Force. Mm-hmm. Those were some of the cooler, maybe if not the individual mechas that made up the bigger ones, but the bigger ones, they were some of the cooler designs in recent memory.
Yeah, I always like animals for a lot of reasons. I mean, I like the Bulkager Zords, I like the Gokai Zords and all that, but anytime you can incorporate an animal into it in some way, I think is just unique, because it's something specific to Earth in general. Because you got those space-themed series and all that. It's like, what's cool about Lost Galaxy is that, like, you have the lion, the gorilla, the air quotes, condor, and you're going to other worlds, and that's like a representation of your planet, of your society.
Yes,
and the whole thing about animals goes...
Especially if you consider the rumor that the Galactic Beasts were from the Animarium, so that...
Yeah.
But that's...
Yeah,
rumor.
But I just like the idea that mankind's history has had animal worship and animal beliefs going way back to whenever, and just the whole idea of incorporating animals into Sentai, it is just awesome to me. Now, with that, they said there's going to be no lion. What's your thought on not having a lion?
I always appreciate when they do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Lions are about as overused as the T-Rexes. In the dinosaur-themed Sentais. And Ghost Sager / Megaforce, mixed it up by having a lion, except the lion didn't belong to the Red Ranger.
Oh, no, I think that's a tiger. It's supposed to be a tiger.
Really? I thought it was a lion.
Well, who knows what Megaforce is calling it, but in Ghost Ager, it's a tiger.
Yeah. Okay, well, regardless, it was a big cat that didn't belong to the Red Ranger.
And, I don't care if they use a lion or not. It doesn't really bother me. I do like seeing different animals out there.
And see, that was something that I appreciated about Geki Ranger and Go Busters. Both of those Sentais had big cats as their mechas, but there was no lion in Geki Ranger.
Well, there was with Rio and Jared's character, but that was later down the line.
Was not a ranger.
Yeah, exactly. He was the bad guy and all that.
Yes, and then with Go Busters, we had Cheetah. Maybe not the most awe-inspiring animal, but, a cool mix-up.
And then there was a rabbit, for crying out loud. Did you ever think you'd see a rabbit in Power Rangers?
No.
Or Sentai?
I'm really interested to see if they're going to keep it as a rabbit when it's turned into Power Rangers.
It'll probably be a hare or something like that, whatever. But yeah, I just want to see more unique animals out there. Somebody also on Ranger Board pointed out one that I thought was pretty cool. Let's see an owl return. Let's see, like from Jetman. Let's see an owl. That would be cool. And the last thing, female Yellow Ranger coming back. What are your thoughts?
Well, really, that's nothing to be exactly surprised by because considering how many series we've had in recent years with a female Yellow, so really it just seems like they're going back to formula, maybe as a response to the controversy of Kyoryuger.
Yep.
Maybe it's just because they want to go back to what's familiar after they've had their year of experimentation.
And I don't care if it's male or female, to be honest. The fact that it's a Yellow Ranger, I just like the idea of again, like I said,
of the three colors that are in everything.
Yeah, and like we said in the last video, I like the color scheme that's red, blue, yellow, green, and pink. So, and actually, I would actually like to see another female White Ranger now that I think about it. So, and let's get into that because there isn't much to go off on here, but what Raptor and I were really talking about, discussing with this podcast is what we want to see in a Sentai series. Now, there have been a lot of things that have come through. We have pirates, we have samurai, we have ninjas, we have dinosaurs, we have rescue workers, time traveling, all these different tropes and stuff.
Yes, yes.
And, it seems likely that the next one's going to be something a little bit different. I don't think it's going to be a rehash because the reason I think they did dinosaurs in Kyoryuger is they knew it was safe.
Yes, they were playing it safe after a bit of a disappointing year with Go Busters.
Yes, and I think what they're going to do is they might not take as big a chance with what they did Go Buster, but they're probably going to go do things like 5-man formula, 6 Ranger, depending on how successful the 10 Ranger formula is with the end of Kyoryuger, with 25 episodes kind of left to go. We might get more than just 6. I doubt there'll be a 3-man team because, again, that goes back to Go Buster. And I also imagine things like collectibles are going to return in probably big fashion this time. But what we want to go ahead and discuss here is really what we as fans want to see in a Sentai.
Now, before we go any further, I want to bring up something that I saw on the website tvtropes.org.
Yes, this is a good point. So yeah,
yes, and I haven't been able to find the link. I was trying to find it again before we started this podcast today. But basically, a user on TV Tropes posited that ever since Gal Ranger, there's a 5-year formula has developed with Sentai.
Which is an interesting kind of formula here, and it does seem to work in general, of course. But Raptor, why don't you just tell us what that formula is here, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail.
Okay, so the formula begins with an anniversary series. A series that celebrates Sentai tropes, plays to a lot of things that have been done in the past, celebrates them. So it starts with Gal Ranger. Then after that, there's always the something different Sentai, usually with a 3-man team. So, following the anniversary series, Gal Ranger, Baukinger, and Gokaiger, we have 3-man team in Hurricaneger. We have 3-man team in Geki Ranger, 3-person team in Go Busters. Usually those try to do something a little different with the formula. And then after that, we always have the light-hearted Sentai.
Yes.
So we have Abba Ranger with its focus on, big explosions and hot blood. And then the comedic Go-Onger,
Mm-hmm.
which focused on comedy, wacky villains, wacky adventures. And then we have Kyoryuger, which is just focused on high energy, colorful mechas, all that.
Yeah.
And then after that, we have the Dark Sentai.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, there was
Shinkanger was definitely the dark one, and then it's hard to remember when we don't actually write this stuff down.
Yeah, it's
so we had Gal Ranger,
Deca Ranger,
Deca Ranger, yeah.
Yeah, which was serious, and then we had Shinkanger, which is serious. We haven't gotten to what's next in
which. If the formula follows, then it seems like it would go ahead and be some sort of serious Sentai, but I would kind of doubt that a little bit simply because where we're going...
Of the response to Kyoryuger.
Yeah, because Kyoryuger is a very lighthearted series. It's got its dark moments, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, and merchandise-wise, it's been a great success.
Exactly.
But
which
then, anyways,
I'm still trying to get hold of most of it.
But to finish the formula off, after the Dark Sentai, we have the Mystical Sentai. So, Magi Ranger at the end of that cycle, and then we have Ghost Sager at the end of the Baukinger cycle.
Yeah, so, which means the 39th Sentai, logically, is going to go ahead and be some sort of magic-based series, which, frankly, I wish we were getting that a little bit earlier, but then again, we'll go ahead and talk about that. Now, I think they may follow to formula, but again, just with how bad Go Buster was received overall. Not that it was that bad of a series, but it got away from what was so familiar in all the other series.
Its toy sales and ratings were disappointing, so therefore it was regarded as a bit of a failure.
But you have to admit, ToQger really set the bar so high.
Yeah, it's...
that anything would have been a disappointment after that. And that's probably why they did what they did, is because they wanted to go ahead and try something new.
Geki Ranger probably had the same problem following Baukinger, which was pretty popular.
And what they did is they focused on character a lot of theirs. But we're getting off topic here because, it's just so much fun to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to present the 5-year formula just as something to think about when looking forward to speculate on the next Sentai.
Yeah, and what we're going to go ahead and do is we want to talk about not so much what we think is going to happen in the next Sentai, but what we as Sentai fans would like to go ahead and see. Yes, because, the thing is, Raptor and I have a lot of different opinions on different things, as you can tell from the last top list we've been doing here recently. That we have different tastes, and I'm really curious as to know what he would like to see in a Sentai and see how that matches with me. So, Raptor, I'm going to give you the floor here for a minute, and simply what I want to go ahead and hear is, what kind of team dynamic, male-female ratio, number of rangers, what type of motif would you have, color scheme, are there collectible toys out in here,
Okay.
Stuff like that. Just, if you were in creative control of Super Sentai, and you got to decide who would be, what will be the 38th Sentai, what is it you would want to go ahead and see as a fan of that series?
Okay, so I'm just going to go off the assumption that, yes, it's an animal series, just as a jumping off point.
Okay.
But that's just saying animal mechas. The rumor didn't say animal-themed series, just said animal mechas.
Yes.
So, first of all, you mentioned collectible toys and whatnot, and collectible toys usually ties into the mechas.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to mechas, something that Kyoryuger has done that I've enjoyed is it's really big on alternate forms for the mechas.
Mm-hmm.
You have... Because at the start, the main mecha would only have 3 of the core 5 mechas.
Yes.
So, you have Kyoryuzen normal, which has Drissera and Stegochi as its weapons.
Okay, yeah.
And so it has a drill, and what's Stegochi's weapon?
It's like a sword and can be a shield. It's multi-purpose.
Yes, and then you can switch those out for Kyoryuzen Western.
Which is the most awesome, yeah.
And a sword.
Yes. A highwayman.
Yes. And then there's also the rocket form when you...
And then Kung Fu form.
Yes.
It's not so much alternate forms, it's just like, it's like Wild Force was, Gal Ranger, different arms, make different combinations.
And I like those sorts of things because it provides variety.
Yes, even though they usually use the same ones over and over again for the first 5 episodes they're introduced.
Yeah, but and something that ToQger had this to an extent with the alternate forms. But the problem was they would just focus on one for a few episodes, and they'd get a new one.
Yeah, they would do
that over and
they
over.
use the Magi Dragon, but as soon as they got the Pat Striker, they stopped using Magi Dragon.
And then they got the Shinkanger power. Used that for a while, and it's
it just kind of continues.
I would like to see if they do this alternate mecha thing. If they constantly switch back and forth depending on the situation. You know, if there's a monster that one form is better against, they'll use that. But say the next episode, that previous mecha formation isn't as good against the monster they're fighting, so they have to switch to a different one. I like that because not just from the perspective of seeing something unique, gain variety, but also from the story perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because it forces the Rangers to be strategic.
I see what you're saying, because, Raptor and I have been talking a lot about Pokemon with X and Y coming out and strategy involved with that. It seems to me that what your suggestion is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like I'm a water type and you're a fire type, but then I need to switch my Megazord to a ground type to better combat you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
When we put in terms of Pokemon, it makes a lot more sense.
And, again, alternate weapons are cool. And to go into that, I would like to see bigger weapons or unique weapons on the Rangers. That's been one of my big problems with Kyoryuger. Those weapons are tiny.
Yeah, more like iconic kind of weaponry, because the problem we get with a lot of shows, like you look at Time Ranger, everybody's special weapon is just a big gun or variation on the exact same weapon. Basically.
Although I would argue that Go Busters had, even though they all had the same weapon, it was a cool weapon, and the sword wasn't tiny. It was a pretty good-sized sword. And the blasters looked cool, and they were good-sized blasters.
But maybe it was something more along the lines of like Zoo Ranger weapons, maybe?
Yes, I like big weapons.
As you point out with the Fire Smasher.
Yeah, they don't all have to be that big. But
so more along the lines of, like, say, Shinkanger.
So it looks like something that would be useful in a fight.
Okay.
Like, Kyoryu Blue's little shield, that thing doesn't look like it'd be useful in a fight.
Not at all.
And ToQger, I think, did that well. Those were weapons big enough to be used in a fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. Now, as for team dynamics.
Okay.
I like to have characters with strongly defined personalities that can clash as well as complement each other.
Okay, so basically what we're looking at is something more of a character story than what we're getting with right now, Kyoryuger, which they have character, but there's not a lot of...
It's a mecha story.
Yeah, it's... The thing about Kyoryuger, no matter how much I like it, it's more about the visuals than it is about the characters. Now, you can debate that all day, but I think that's kind of where they're going, whereas Go Buster was more about the character stories than it was the mecha.
I would argue that ToQger, despite its focus on mecha in the past Sentai
was a lot about story.
It had very strong characters, and there were many episodes dedicated to the relationships between
and surprisingly,
characters.
It was a really good balance that they had.
Like the episode that focuses on Dawn and Guy's relationship.
Yes.
That was a story of jealousy and learning to overcome that.
Yeah.
And then there was the episode that focused on the relationship between Luca and Ayam and how they have a very sisterly relationship.
And now our current focus in Kyoryuger is the Pink Ranger and the Violet Ranger fighting over for the affection of the Red Ranger. So.
Yeah. Way to overcome the sexism there.
Yes.
But
so, yeah, I understand what you're saying about dynamic and all that.
And see, I think the big thing is they can't they have to clash but also complement each other. I think that's great character dynamic because think about it, when you're just hanging out with your friends, you have friends that you are very different from, but you can also learn to have your personalities back each other up well. So, I used this example a few weeks ago, but I'm going to harken back to this again just because it's one of the best written kids shows on television. Going to go back to My Little Pony here.
Okay.
I'm going to out myself as a brony again. The personalities of the characters on the show, they will argue pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
But they make up for each other's strengths. So, for example, in one episode, the main 6 ponies have to go drive off a dragon that's polluting the sky because it churns out smoke when it sleeps.
Okay.
Each of the 6 ponies has a different method to try get the dragon to leave. And they argue with each other about how to accomplish that. And it turns out in the end, it's the character Fluttershy that has the right approach, when throughout the entire episode, it seemed like she didn't belong on this trip to go drive off the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is, they argue with each other, but they complement each other. And I think that's a great dynamic from Ranger teams.
Yes, I totally agree with that, and I'll probably go into a little bit more detail once I go ahead and talk about mine. But we're here to go ahead and talk about yours. Any other ideas that you have? I mean, things that you just want to go ahead and see, or is that kind of in general what you like?
Well, there's a few more things.
Okay.
In regards to the 6th Ranger, because that's an assumption at this point. They sometimes change it up, such as 2 6 Rangers.
Yeah, we don't know if there are 3 Rangers or 5 Rangers or however they're going to start this.
But as for the Johnny-come-lately contrast to the rest of the group Ranger, I like the anti-hero 6th Rangers.
So, like you mean like Abra Killer,
Abari Killer, Dragon Ranger, and Tommy to a lesser extent.
Time Fire,
Titanium Ranger. I love the ones who, again, contrast the group. The ones who will do things a little differently just because maybe they came from the wrong side of the tracks. They have different ideas about how to do it. Those are my favorite 6 Rangers. We've had plenty of before, and we've had plenty of 6 Rangers that worked well with the team. That's just my favorite. And also, one more thing. Well, 2 more things.
Okay, go ahead.
I like having a rival villain.
Like what they did in ToQger, each Ranger had a specific rival to go ahead and fight.
Yes, and like Bosco and ToQger, he had a much more personal connection to the team than the Zangiak did. Or Inter in the Go Busters. He engaged them directly a lot more than Messiah did. Or to go back to Jetman, Gray.
Yeah.
He had a personal vendetta against the Black Ranger, and the 2 had a final duel together on their own.
Yeah, it's always fun to get like a personal stake in the battle, which unfortunately is kind of what we're missing in like ToQger at the moment, and a lot of others. I mean, but like Geiki Ranger, definitely a rivalry there with Rio and Jan and their whole past and the father situation and all that.
Samurai has the whole thing going with Decker. Was there something like that in Shinkanger?
Yeah, it was again, it's copy and paste. It was pretty much the same thing, but just like I need to fight the greatest warrior who ever lived, and that's Shinken.
So I have a rivalry with the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
I care less about accomplishing the evil deeds of the guy I'm working for.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in fighting this guy.
Yeah.
And then one last thing, this harkens back to the mechas. Maybe mix it up on whatever mechas we receive. They already said that there's not going to be a lion. So let's just... I mean, the Red Ranger has to have some kind of triumphant animal, so...
I say give him the weirdest animal possible. Give him a giant snail or something.
A snail or, give him a bear.
Hey, bears are awesome. I want to see pandas. That's what I want to say. I want to see more pandas in Sentai.
Give that to a Black Ranger or a White Ranger.
Red panda. Think about it.
But red pandas aren't that...
Yeah, but still. It's red.
So, different animals, stuff we haven't seen a lot of. I'd really hope that we don't get another shark for blue.
Yeah, and if it's a shark, at least make it like a hammerhead.
Or, make it like an orca.
Which they did.
Yeah, but that got changed when it came stateside.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I'd like to see it mixed up with animals.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm understanding here is a lot of the elements that does make Sentai work. It is the interpersonal conflicts with the Rangers from a lot of the seasons. Animal Zord variations, basically, different arms, different legs, and all that, which can get tiresome,
weapons,
but Yeah, weapons are signature weapons because it's one thing when all your rangers use a sword in combat like samurai, but it's much better when the pink ranger is an expert marksman with the bow, the black ranger is
And also, they
you know,
need to be cool weapons and look like they'd be useful. Like I said, I dislike the weapons of the Kyoto users.
yeah. The black ranger's probably the only good one there, just because his is another gun and he can dual wield.
The size on that one is justified, but that little tiny thing that red and pink use.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I definitely understand where you come from here, and I would agree with a lot of these choices. Mine is a little bit different here because
hit me.
Here's the thing: I have thought long and hard of what I would do if I could make my own Power Rangers series.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I would do is, in general, like I said, conflict between characters. My problem I have with a lot of the Sentais and Power Rangers is that they are a group chosen by a single person or government organization. They are destined to go ahead and be part of this team.
Yeah, destined to save the world.
Exactly. But the thing about Jetman that I like the most...
the Jetmen were accidental.
It was random. I want to see a Sentai, and this may just be exactly like Jetman, but I want to see it again, where all 5 of the Rangers... None of them belong there
Maybe
at all.
Maybe one that belongs.
No, none of them. I like the idea that nobody's associated with it. This just falls out of the sky, essentially, and they get thrown into a situation in which they have to adapt to it.
Have to learn to work together with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, because even the Red Ranger and Jetman, he knew what he was doing, what he was getting into. He understood the threat, and he was the consummate leader. But if the leader of the team is some, like, store clerk that I shouldn't be here today...
but I'm new in town.
Yeah, I mean, just like, again, you randomly get this and then you have to deal with it. That's what I like, is that it just suddenly comes out of nowhere. You have to go ahead and deal with it.
Learn to adapt. Okay, I like that.
And even if it's like say the Black Ranger, say one of the Rangers is a criminal or something, he should be in jail.
Yeah, way to walk out of that potentially.
I am sorry. My apologies. I didn't think about it. But, always the Black Ranger is always like the antagonist, the foil for the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, he's like a criminal or something, but then he becomes a hero because of this situation.
The anti-hero, basically.
Exactly. Stuff like that. That's what I kind of want to see with the Rangers.
Sort of like Ziggy and Dylan. And I know you dislike RPM.
But a little bit rougher would be the way I say it. A little bit rougher than either of those characters.
Like Ziggy, but actually rough and serious.
Yeah, kind of more like Dylan, I guess, but less Wolverine in his character.
Yeah. So basically mix the two. Ziggy's criminal background with Dylan's gruffness.
That's a simplification of it, but yeah, I will go with that just for simplicity purposes here. Because if I had the chance to develop it a little bit more, I would tell you kind of how I want to go ahead and do that. As far as like the mechas are concerned, I like the animals, but why don't we get triple Transformers again?
Okay, like in Go Busters with Go Buster Ace.
Yeah, let's go off an owl, and let's say it goes to the Yellow Ranger and stuff. So we're doing a yellow owl. It's a bird 1 form.
So plain.
It doesn't even have to be plain. If I'm just saying, like, pure animal. So it's an owl bird, and then it becomes a robot, humanoid robot like Garuda from Mystic Force, and then it could become, it could be a jet, it could be a different type of vehicle and all that, because I just like multiple forms of the same robot. And this goes back to my another thing that I had said, I forget which video we had said it in before, but it was in a Zord video that we had done.
Okay.
Each Ranger has their own Megazord, basically. So you have auxiliary Zords that come in throughout the season, and they can be armor for each different Zord. So we get 5 core Zords. Each of them is animal, turns into vehicle, turns into robot. Mm-hmm. Then we have, say, a water-based auxiliary set, 3 to 5 auxiliary pieces. They'll combine with the Pink Rangers and make the Megazord.
Yes.
But then they can go to the Black Rangers and turn into the Megazord. and then all 5 of the Ranger Zords, Prime Zords will come, make a large Megazord, like maybe Super Train size.
Yeah,
and then all these other auxiliaries, like each Ranger has their own set of standardized auxiliary, which they can share with the others. And then the auxiliaries, everything just makes a giant Megazord, because this gets into my collectible thing. I don't mind collectibles as long as there is a set number. And by that, I mean, look at the Ranger keys. First it was like 200 of them, but then you have all these extras. You have the shiny ones. You have the special Christmas key.
Yeah, Gokai Christmas.
It's just there's no set number. But if you look at Go-Onger, each one had the soul chips.
Yeah, and
there was only 12.
Kyoryuger, how many batteries are there in total?
There are going to be like 24 in total, like 23, 24.
That's a set number.
Yeah, but then they have all the extra batteries, and then they have the dark batteries, then they have the see-through batteries, and all these different variations on them, but I would like a set number of collectibles. Set numbers
so they can be special.
Yeah, and I don't see how my idea would have the collectible kind of stuff in there, but like even if the Zords themselves are collectibles, if the auxiliaries are collectibles, like Kyoryuger now, where you have to buy each one in a set, I think that would be fine.
Okay.
And I think the last thing I would do, and these are just broad strokes, because if we could sit down and do an entire series, I think we would come up with something.
That'd be a long podcast.
Yes. But the last thing I would like to see is, first of all, it's the villains. First, I would like human villains. I think the human villains are always the best.
I agree.
Because, again, Geki Ranger, my favorite villains thus far of the ones I've seen. I love Enter, and now I've just been introduced to Escape since I'm finishing Go Buster. And then
go back to Bosco and go.
Bosco, yes, because he was very interesting.
Because you can connect with them more emotionally, and see, that's something that Power Rangers has been failing on for the last few years.
But here's where I would change the formula completely and try something new. Have the antagonists be a dark team of Power Rangers.
Okay.
Now, not like the Psycho Rangers, but what I'm saying is they are another team of Power Rangers who maybe they're working for somebody like Messiah or something like that. Like they're evil Zordon, basically.
So kind of like the A Squad Rangers?
No, not like that. So imagine, did you ever read Animorphs?
Yes.
Do you remember the Elements and the Krayak?
Okay, yeah.
So you have the good Zordon, the evil Zordon. They have their own
their
team.
Champions. Yes.
Exactly, and then they're fighting against each other for some galactic wars or whatever the thing is. And then what you can do is you have the 5 evil Rangers with their own established backgrounds, their own established weapons.
And see, there's 5 to 6 more toys right there.
Exactly, and then they have their, not like some cheap-ass robot, but actual developed robots like they would normally be.
Their own mecha that's threatening.
Exactly, and they could be like Sentai 38A, basically. Yeah, 38A, 38B, basically.
Okay,
so you have two Sentai teams.
Let me present a question though.
Yeah.
How do you plan to utilize that for the week-to-week monster fights?
Well, that would be a good question, because I haven't really thought about that far. But I just think the idea is like maybe they get a new Zord every week. Maybe that's what it is. It's escalation. Is that they're just building up. Because I think I like Go Buster, and what they did is that it was very logical what they did with their villains and how they did the Megazords and all that.
Yeah.
But maybe, or maybe each of these Rangers have the ability to create different monsters. What some people don't understand about Ginga Man, when it was translated to Lost Galaxies, you had 4 or 5 specific villains, with each of their minions being a specific motif. Like the Villamax equivalent, all his were like leather-based swordsmen or something like that.
Okay, so it's similar to Bowkinger and Operation Overdrive in that aspect.
Something like that. So like say you got the evil Yellow Ranger, okay? And she is able to get her own army of minions or something like that, or she creates monsters, and all of her monsters are gun-wielding of some sort. So this week you'll have the gun-wielding monster from the Yellow Ranger. She's leading them on the battlefield.
Okay, yeah.
And then it could be a giant monster or her own Megazord, where, the monster's destroyed and she takes them on the Megazord and she has a new upgrade to go ahead and use. Again, it's just a preliminary thought, but the reason I bring this up and the reason I went to this whole tangent is I want to see 2 Ranger teams go against each other the entire season.
Okay, so that kind of goes into what I was saying with wanting a rivalry.
Yeah, because each Ranger, and here's another thing I always thought, wouldn't it be cool if the villains in Power Rangers were always like clones of the Rangers. So imagine somebody took the Red Ranger, cloned them. You have the Dark Red Ranger, same person. You can get the same actor, basically. You can save money on that, but they have completely different ideas.
I would argue against that. I would prefer the dark counterpart formula.
Well, yeah, and again, you can do that. I'm just spitballing here and all that, but just whatever way you can get to have these 5 good champions against the 5 evil champions that are somehow polar opposites. And think about what I said about the criminal ranger. What if the other guy's like his cellmate, his rival is his cellmate, who made the choice, I'm going to go with evil, I'm not going to go ahead and do good.
I'm not going to attempt to be some kind of hero. Okay.
Yeah, so one guy who seeks redemption, one guy's like, I don't care, I'm going to do what I have been doing because now I have more power, or whatever it is.
Okay.
I just think it would be so awesome to have 2 teams of Rangers during an entire season and both have these great leaders. And it goes against what I said about randomly getting the Rangers, but you never know how you can work. I would work that in different, I guess, in my show. But I just want to more toys, more character dynamics. I think it would just be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that 2 teams of Rangers is great merchandising opportunity as well as,
And they've tried it before in previous Rangers. I mean, again, first we saw that kind of like Mega Ranger, Mega Ranger with the Psychos. And then
was it Die Ranger or Kaku Ranger that had
the Lotus team or something? Flat, the cats turned into girls, but they're not really even a Sentai team. I'm talking about like fully developed concepts and ideas.
Yes.
Because everybody's had like the Dark Rangers, that are mirror opposites of the Rangers. But again, you got to have this whole team.
Need to be worthy opponents, not those god awful costumes.
Some of them worked, some of them didn't. So. I'm not talking about the Dark Rangers. I'm talking about like evil versions of the Rangers and all that. But same thing, yes. Sort of like if Lord Zed had spent more time on the Dark Rangers.
And if they were around longer instead of just being in and out.
Because imagine if Zed came in the second season and his team of Rangers were the Die Rangers with the Thunder Zords.
That would have been a cool...
Exactly. So think of an entire series based on that concept of 2 teams of Rangers with their own Zords and 2 different leaders with 2 different agendas.
And that's what a lot of fans were hoping would be done with the Power Rangers adaptation of GoSager. A lot of fans had hoped that they would combine GoSager and GoKaiger, and that there would be 2 different teams. You'd have the Gosei team and the Gokai team. Although, problem with that is you would really have to work hard to make sure that the Gosei team isn't overshadowed by the Gokai team, because they're going to look cooler with their Ranger changes.
Yeah. But Raptor, the thing is that we don't know what's going to go ahead and be coming. We don't know if they're going to follow formula. We don't know what Toei's going to say at the top levels, like we need this. If a lot of their stuff is based on marketing, or if they just have some good writers are going to come up with some good stuff. It's going to be an interesting ride here, and I would hope that maybe 1 or 2 of our ideas will eventually come to fruition somewhere down the line, where that'd be the 38th, 39th, or think about it, in a few more years, the 40th Sentai, which I'm curious on what they're going to do there. But, I just want to kind of get those ideas out there. Maybe we'll do a podcast. We'll create our own Ranger team and share it with our fans. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But, hey, we want to know what you guys think. First of all, what do you think about the rumors that came out today? Let us know.
Yeah, we'll put a link to the Ranger board thread in the description.
Yeah, we'll set that in there. And, again, tell us what you think about. And also, what kind of Sentai do you guys want to see? Or, if you want, what kind of Power Rangers do you want to go ahead and see? That, give us your ideas, give us your thoughts. We want to go ahead and hear, and maybe Raptor and I can debate a couple of ideas next time.
Yeah, maybe we could do a response if we get some good response.
Yeah, because, Raptor, I'm always up for doing responses. I just want to get a response that's not from a troll.
Well, let's see. You pretty much invited them by saying that.
Yes, I did. So it's on you guys now. But I want to thank everybody for listening here. I want to thank Raptor for joining me here.
Always good to be here.
Absolutely. So you guys have yourself a good day, and the tavern is now closed.